Jazzcast Pros.
Welcome to High Vibe Table Talks, the podcast to help you, the current or aspiring solopreneur, navigate the messy middle so you can make both an income and an impact. Hi, I'm Rashawn, and I love creating safe spaces for women to be courageous in their dreams. After spending a decade working in sales for a startup and talking with hundreds of other women entrepreneurs, I know it can be lonely, but you can do this. We are having impactful conversations with people walking similar paths to you, so pull up a seat. This is High Vibe Table Talks. I am very excited about our guest today, Tasha and Brandon. Welcome to the table.
Thanks for having us. We're excited.
I always like to start by sharing with the audience a little bit about who you are, where you're located, and who you serve. So would you mind starting there?
Sure. We are coaches and strategists for recovering perfectionists and people coming out of burnout, specifically entrepreneurs and anybody who has complex life circumstances. We've been in business together for about 5 years, but both of us have a long history of project managing people. And we currently live in Portland, Oregon. We've been here for about 2 years.
Very nice. And so how we connected is I was actually on Threads a couple times looking for someone to talk about nervous system regulation. It is a topic that has come across my algorithm many times. I don't know a lot about it. And so typically I curate quite a few questions and I'm fully prepared because it's a topic I love talking about. This one's going to be a little bit different, not only because there are two of you, which will be really cool to see how we play off of each other, but also because it's a topic I just don't know a lot about. So if someone, kind of walked up to you and said, hey, what is nervous system regulation? Can you break it down into the most basic understanding for us?
Go for it.
Okay.
You're going to nerd out.
I'm going to try to do this as brief as possible. Nervous system regulation is the process of bringing your body back in homeostasis. So when you, step in front of a car and don't realize you're stepping on the street and your body reacts and it has that huge flood of heat and that flood of anxiety and like that deep breath, those are all reflexive. You don't have any control over that response. What has happened over the course of the last probably 100 years or so is that we have moved out of being in constant physical danger and we've been a lot more emotional, financial, social danger. And so our bodies have started to respond to the immense amount of stress, especially entrepreneurs, to emotional things that there is no resolution. So nervous system regulation is a tool to help your body come back to its center, to turn on the rest and digest response, so that your nervous system is responding appropriately. The problem for most of us is that we are having an overreaction or an underreaction to the stresses in our lives. And so our bodies can't biochemically full out to finish the process. And then we have all these residual impact, short-term and long-term, of that process. And it took us a while to get there, but we figured out this is one of the huge issues that so many people are walking around with.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times when I work with entrepreneurs in my community and talk on this podcast, a lot of times the reason they got into this type of business is because they were their first client. And so really where they are now is talking to a previous version of themselves. Does that resonate with both of you?
1,000,000%. That is part of our story, is that our family is Tasha and the kids are chronically ill and have disabilities. And in the very, very deep throes of that experience in the very beginning, Tasha was really ill and wasn't able to actually get out of bed very often. Her physical ability diminished. There was a lot going on for her health-wise. And this journey of nervous system regulation for us and our family started with Tasha finding ways to heal herself that Western medicine wouldn't address. And it was because of the fact that she has, and both the kids do, chronic illnesses that people aren't very familiar with. And so we were given a lot of, you're okay. Maybe you need more rest. Maybe you should try to do yoga. I don't really think it's all that bad. And
your lab works look fine.
Right. There was a lot of, everything looks fine. Maybe you're just sad and tired. And it 100% wasn't that. And so the journey of nervous system regulation for this family started with Tasha being in bed, not being able to get out because of the fact that she was so ill. And the medical community essentially gave up and just said, it's hard. You're probably tired. Figure it out. And so it was that process that led Tasha to learning about nervous system regulation, that led us to realizing that truly the root cause of everything comes down to, is your nervous system responding appropriately to the stimulus outside of your body? And when you have years and years and years of trauma and years and years and years of masking, so anybody who's neurodivergent, who's had to like try to find a way to shove themselves in the box that the world creates for them, there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of masking that comes from that, and it makes you sick. And when you have to respond to the world in that way over and over and over again, your nervous system tells your body we're in constant danger. And when your body's in constant danger, it reacts in turn, which completely throws your system for a loop. And so your immune system goes haywire. Either it goes into hyperdrive or it completely shuts off. Like all of these things happen. And so once we realized that nervous system regulation was really the root cause of the solution to everything that we were frustrated with, it very much became an obsession, and it very much became something that we realized like, oh, this is in everything. And so it was that experience that truly led us to where we are. And so short answer, yes, absolutely. But so much deeper than just, I wish my business worked and I don't know why I'm overreacting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is so much there to dig into. But one of the first things that your journey resonates with me is like, I always say for entrepreneurs specifically, but really for everybody, is that should is a shame word. You know, you should just get more sleep. You should just try harder. You should just be happy. Like, you know, I have a friend who was going through depression, and one of her friends was like, why don't you just go and take more walks during the day? She's like, no, don't you think I would have tried that by now? Like, it's this, and I think that's why these conversations are so beautiful and so powerful and important, is because giving people a more an in-depth conversation about things that they don't understand is like so important. And really, like, we get so stuck into, well, I see the world this way, so everybody should. And it's really just not that. So, you know, and the other thing is like, once you are opened up to it, it's like this grief process of like all of these things that my life could have been differently. So how do you help someone who's kind of just getting into that, of like realizing you don't have to live this way, you don't have to mask, you can do things to support your body?
So 2 things on that real quick. One is, we just had this conversation with our membership community on Monday about grief is a huge part of this process. You have to have a grieving process as you are starting to uncover some of these layers of, like Brandon was saying, masking, these facades you've had to put on because you didn't know that you were allowed to be your full self. You needed to fit yourself into these different boxes that society and your family of origin and different organizations, as a professional and as a business owner, all of these different things that we've been taught are the right way to do things. So there's a lot of grieving and like, oh, I could have not been trying to fix myself this whole time. I could have just actually been embodying and embracing the stuff that I freaking love. And instead, you know, you spent, in my case, decades trying to figure out how to make myself better because it clearly wasn't matching up. And the other part of this is, when you are in the journey of discovering where this could have been different, it does require you to champion yourself, to look at what you have been hiding, what you have been putting aside or shoving into a corner. And the work that we do is helping people believe in themselves again, because for so many years we have, all of us. I mean, I was listening to one of your podcasts, and I know you mentioned that ADHD is a newish diagnosis for you. That's inherently traumatizing when you're living in a world that is operating from neurotypical systems. And so there's so much self-acceptance that has to happen. Like, oh, it wasn't me the whole time. And oftentimes there's a lot of having to go back and rewrite the stories about what experiences you lived through to say, oh, I have to heal that chapter because I don't have to carry that wound with me anymore because that wasn't actually my problem. That was their problem. And so a lot of our work is holding space for our clients to acknowledge who they really are, and we get to celebrate them. And oftentimes we discover things about them that they've never said out loud, that they are like, oh, that's cool. Like that's a cool thing about me. I should do more of that. And we're like, oh my God, do that all the time, because that's the part of you that makes you you. And so just seeing people's lights come on again as they move in and out of the grief, but into their safety, which is really what it boils down to. Having a sense of safety in who you are in terms of nervous system regulation is a huge part of the healing journey.
One of the things that I think is so cool about nervous system regulation is as you regulate your nervous system, you become innately more confident. You just feel like you understand how to operate your body better. Like your brain and your body connection is made through nervous system regulation. So all of your anxiety that you have of like, oh my God, I don't have enough money in my bank account, or this awful thing is going to happen to somebody, maybe because I don't know why, like that's all in your head. And then your body has its own thing going on. And when you regulate your nervous system, that connection is there. And so you feel more in control of yourself, of your thoughts, of your ability. You have a better understanding of what's going on in the moment. And so there's this level of confidence that comes with it. What I think is really interesting is the more we regulate our nervous system, the more we're actually able to objectively look at our life and go, oh, that happened. Because I have a calm system to be able to pull back and observe now. But what's wonderful is in the grieving process, because of the fact that you're regulating your nervous system, it gives you more opportunity to not get thrown into this like cesspool of how did this happen? I can't believe this is going on. I can't believe I let this happen to me. It gives you power to rewrite your story because you are taking power back as you're doing it, which I think is just this really incredible thing that comes from nervous system regulation. Like you have a need in the moment to be able to be calm. But what that also does for you, it gives you enough power to look backwards and say, I'm going to rewrite my story. I'm going to take control of my life because I'm actually in control of myself, which is something that when we don't have a regulated nervous system, you're not.
And you feel it. You feel it deeply. Like, why do I keep thinking about this? Why do I keep doing this pattern? Why do I keep doing this bad habit? It's all because of dysregulation.
When you and your partner are in an argument and it's just looping over and over, that's dysregulation. And the reason why it's looping is you're not in control. Not like you're a lunatic. You're just not in control. Like your brain, your body connection is not there. Your body's telling you you're unsafe. Your brain is freaking out. And when you regulate your nervous system, you just have so much more to be able to show up to a situation, including your grief, which allows you to see through it more, which allows you to be able to actually like move through that process faster. Not just to bury it, but to understand it, to be able to move forward, which I think is really incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. When I first got my ADHD and anxiety diagnosis, I spent the whole weekend just like crying, processing it, and letting it kind of like wash over. And instead of being like, okay, I'm going to compartmentalize and move forward, it's like you have to allow space for all of those feelings. And so if like people out there, including me, are like, okay, now I start to understand this. Like, what are some typical like symptoms or things? Because I think the two things that I do is like the awareness and then the intention. And so you have to bring awareness to like, okay, let me look at myself, how I'm showing up. And then once you are in awareness, then you can do something different. And so how can people start to become aware? And then once they are aware, how do they transition to get closer to regulating their body?
So one, I love that we have the same view on the self-awareness part, because it's oftentimes, and we see this in our clients a lot. And I was this way for a long time. Like, I just want to know what to do now, but you have like, just tell me what to do so I can go do the thing, so I can fix it, so I can move on to do the next thing. But that's also dysregulation.
It's also why you need it.
The self-awareness part is just starting to pay attention to, like you said, noticing the symptoms. What are the signs that you're dysregulated? So some of the signs that you're dysregulated as a business owner, specifically as an entrepreneur, is buying a bunch of courses, downloading 1,000 PDFs, and then not actually following through with the action plan, right? And I mean, years I did this. Also, avoiding the income producing tasks, doing all the busy stuff, making sure your Canva templates are perfect, making sure that you are double checking, triple checking, a caption before you post it. And these are things that we still work through on a regular basis. But the awareness of, oh, this is when I do this, so this is when I do this next thing, is shorter. That time that you lose is less. And that's the superpower of having regulation practices as part of your business strategy is you'll start to notice, oh, I spent 2 hours doing this post today. It's probably not my best use of time, considering I have this other goal I'm trying to meet. And so you start losing less time, because once you realize, okay, I'm starting to spin a little bit, I'm starting to spiral a little bit, I know I need to do a nervous system regulation. So I'll take a walk, or I'll do some breath work, or I'll do some shaking. There's different techniques that you can do that don't require a lot of time or energy, but it does help your body significantly zoom out and then be able to make a decision that is better for you long-term and more aligned with your goals and your intentions for the day. The thing that we don't realize, especially as entrepreneurs who've been in the personal development world for a while, I'm sure you have been reading personal development books for a while, just like I had.
Yeah.
There's so much focus on mindset. You got to change your mind. You got to change your mind. There is no amount of thinking that is going to get you out of dysregulation. And so when we don't incorporate the regulation practices into changing your thought process, you're just trying to convince your body that it's safe when it's standing on the edge of a cliff. And if you don't integrate that, you're not going to actually see long-term sustainable change. You can get yourself geared up and like hyped up enough to do the thing once, but then you're taking a nap after because your body isn't actually feeling safe. You just got it so hyped up that it could move through that.
Actually, speaking of that, we actually had a client, and she is a new author, and she actually has a series, like a fantasy trilogy out, and she hired us because of the fact that she was going to be going on tour. She was like, I have no idea how to manage the amount of stimulation and the amount of demand on me. Because right now, like when I go to a party, I get so wound up and so excited, my adrenaline goes through the roof that I need to take 3 days off after, and I don't have that kind of time. And so coming back to your question, what is that awareness piece? Like the first thing we tell everybody is you need to audit your life. Like you need to do an inventory. My suggestion always is, what are you doing with your time when you're quote unquote just killing time? Like that is where you're going to start to uncover where your dysregulation lives. So if you're staying up, I am this person, until 2:00 in the morning, watching television that you've seen a million times, there is something there. Like there's something in there. So are you using your time effectively? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, then there's dysregulation in there. And that doesn't mean you did anything wrong. And it doesn't mean that you're in trouble. And it doesn't mean that everything's going to come crashing down. It just means maybe it's time to regulate your nervous system and then ask yourself what to do next.
It means there's an unmet need,
right?
Which is where the reframing needs to happen. You didn't do anything wrong. There's something that you need that you're not getting.
And is it soothing, or is it rest, or is it that the reason why you're not able to actually like nail your ass to your desk and do the job is because of the fact that you're so dysregulated? You've got too much energy in your body and you needed to get it out. This is one of the things that is so under talked about when it comes to nervous system regulation. Your problem isn't always that you have too much energy or that you have too much anxiety. Like you were talking about earlier, that you had a friend that was working through some depression. That is a massive low level of energy. That is a dysregulated nervous system. Just because you have very little energy doesn't mean you're not dysregulated. And so there's finding, like Tasha was saying in the beginning, it's finding that homeostasis. If you can identify how I'm killing time is like going to happy hour and it turning into happy night and it's the next morning, or I'm doom scrolling, all of these things, look at your energy and look at why you're doing it.
Without judgment.
Right.
With compassion and asking curious questions like, why is this? What is happening within me? What is it that I want? And what is it that I need? Those are the two questions we are constantly telling our audience and our clients to ask. What do I want? What do I need? Because most of us have not been asked that since we were small kids. And even before then, we weren't asked then.
Yeah. The decoupling of like the curiosity and the shame is like so important. Like get curious, but don't then bring in shame, because, you know, what I like to say, it's not your fault that you're fucked up. It's your fault if you stay fucked up. Like,
yes.
Right.
You know, use these things that you're learning to do better and, you know, give yourself a lot of grace of why you may have chosen differently last night, last year, when you were, you know, 10, whatever those time frames are. So one of the big things that, like, my favorite word that I use a lot in my business is tearsighted, when you're terrified and excited to do something. And a lot of times what I find is that when people take tear-sighted action, there is this vulnerability hangover afterwards. I guess my question is, how do you balance taking that action to build your business, which is very vulnerable and very scary and will dysregulate your nervous system, with like both are necessary? I don't know if I framed that question right, but what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Regulate your nervous system all the fucking time, no matter what, all the fucking time. Like, you brush your teeth twice a day. You've been doing it for your entire life. By this point in time, you're a full-ass adult and you can decide, I'm not going to do that today, but you do it anyway. We need to be regulating our nervous system with the same kind of automatic intent, because, and it's something that we're talking a lot about in our content right now. And this is the example that I used a while ago, and I love it so much. If your kid was about to go to exam, or knew that they had exams coming up, and you asked your kid, when are you going to study? And they said the morning of the exams, you would wonder what the hell was wrong with their plan. If you know nervous system regulation is great in a crisis, why would you wait until a crisis to start regulating your nervous system?
Mm-hmm.
If your business creates some version of crisis level feeling in you all the time, as it does when you're a new business owner and you have no idea what to do, and the algorithm is a thing, then regulate your nervous system all the time, not because you need to, not because you want to, but because that's what needs to get done for your body to be prepared for all of the things that come with the terror that is a business. Also, the crazy amount of excitement that comes with a business. Like, if your nervous system is dysregulated and you sign on a $50,000 client, but you don't have a regulated nervous system, you don't know what to do next. Like, you don't know what to do at all. But if your nervous system is regulated and you sign a $50,000 client, your brain and your body goes, yeah, that's exactly what's supposed to happen. And then you show up the way you want to for your business, rather than, I hope I get it, I hope I get it, I hope I get it. It comes and you're like, great. And then you need to take a nap because you're so tired and exhausted and terrified. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the thing about business that I'm on the soapbox for, and I will be for a while, because had I known about nervous system dysregulation, chronic dysregulation, and its connection to goals 20 years ago when I started my very first business, I would have been much more successful, and I wouldn't have ended up in bedbound. I wouldn't have been bedbound for those 2 years. We wouldn't have had to do the last 10 years of like survival and then, growing through these things. Everything that you want that is beyond your current reach is going to cause some kind of stress activation. And if you don't have the tools to nurture your nervous system through that so that your nervous system capacity can expand, you're going to hit a wall over and over and over again, which is what we have seen across the board in our own journeys, but also with all of our clients who are building businesses or building creative businesses. And this is the part that can be so quickly changed when you integrate a technique or a practice into your business practices. Anytime you're going to be doing something that feels scary, you don't have to have the vulnerability hangover, because you will have before, during, and after taken care of your nervous system and prepared it for the thing that's big and scary. So by the time you're doing the big and scary thing, it isn't actually as scary as you thought it was. When I was listening to your podcast, you mentioned vision boards and how you have them so you can see them all the time. That's exactly aligned with how we do it as well. And when you start incorporating nervous system regulation techniques with your vision board, you make it impossible for your body to react negatively to the thing that feels scary and out of reach when you initially set that goal. And it has been a game changer for our family, for our business, for our clients. It's been incredible.
Mm-hmm. Like you were saying, Brandon, you can't use it the morning of the test, and all of these things that we practice, they're muscles, and you have to practice using them in small moments and then the muscle gets stronger and stronger, and then you can use it in bigger situations and it's not as scary. Just like going to the gym, like you're not all of a sudden going to go in and bench press 200 pounds. You're going to start by, doing arm curls with 10-pound weights, and then you're going to slowly move up and it's going to get easier. And I love the way that when you get better at using that muscle, it overlays itself into all areas of your life, your business. Like entrepreneurship is such a microscope on who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And when I become a better entrepreneur, I become a better mother and a better wife and a better friend and a better homekeeper, all of the things. So it's really, really beautiful and important work.
I want to lean in on that example of the going to the gym. Yes, when you start going to the gym, you're not benching 200 pounds. And when you keep going to the gym, not every single day, once you hit 200 pounds, are you going to bench 200 pounds. Some days you're going to feel off, but you still go to the gym because because it's part of what you do. And maybe that day's not a leg day. Maybe that's I'm walking on a treadmill for 3 hours, watching daytime television, but like there's a range. And that's one of the things that we work with our clients a lot is nervous system regulation is really important. But when you're dysregulated, it's one of the hardest things to do. If we can get a practice going where we understand, I'm just going to check in I'm just going to touch this today. I don't need to do a 30-minute like meditation or a big to do every day. I just need to touch this today because that's the amount of time I have. And on another day, like on a Sunday when I'm just taking a me day, then I'm going to regulate all damn day. But like today on a Tuesday in between meetings, when I just got out of a board meeting where I got yelled at and I got to go into another one, I've got 3 minutes. Just like going to the gym, not every day I'm going to be able to bench the same because my body's tired, because I've got stuff going on and I don't want to hurt myself. Nervous system regulation is the same thing. You don't want to cause anxiety by trying to create 30 minutes every hour to regulate your nervous system because that's impossible.
Right. And that's why I think, Tasha, I heard you talk about like a toolbox and being able to pull from, because some days meditation will work. Some days I need a walk. Some days I need any of those things. And you have to be able to pull from a toolbox because some days meditation is just not going to be the thing, or I don't have the capacity to take a walk because it's a snowstorm or whatever it is. But you can't know what that toolbox is unless you use it in the smaller moments.
And it's easier to know that when you're not in a high stakes situation. And this is the part that really is so important for people to understand. It's easier to start developing these practices and make it reflexive and strengthen that muscle when there isn't the pressure of it having to work. So when you're at home and it's just a random Sunday afternoon and there's no expectation of you being anywhere, there's nobody that need anything from you, that's the time to check in and say, does this help? Does this one work for me? And you can check in with your body without there being, it has to effing work because I have all these things I need to do. I'm about to do this really scary thing. That is the pre-work that makes everything else much more manageable and conducive to what you're trying to do in your business or any of your other goals.
Mm-hmm. This is just so good. And we didn't even dive into like our cycles and how that impacts it. And I know that you guys talk a lot about that. And I would love if you guys came back and we could have a more in-depth conversation. For now, we do have to get into the lightning round questions. So I will leave this up to both of you. What is a must-read book?
Big Magic. Big Magic by Liz Gilbert is my Bible. What's yours?
I mean, that's my first, but if we're talking about the topic, Burnout by Emily Nagoski is an incredible book to understand your nervous system.
Awesome. What does creativity mean to you?
It's thinking outside the box, getting outside the boxes you're put into, and finding ways to make things do the things you want them to do without following the rules is my current working definition of that.
Yeah.
Creativity is literally everything to me. Like it is the thing that I put a filter on absolutely everything. And collaboration is the cornerstone of that. And so working with other people that think creatively, thinking outside the box, that's creativity to me.
Yeah. Awesome. What is the best piece of advice you've received?
It's from a Glennon Doyle book. If you choose between disappointing yourself or disappointing somebody else, always choose disappointing somebody else. Best like reciting, looping thought in my mind.
Yeah.
There was a book by Thich Nhat Hanh, who was a Buddhist monk. And in it, one of the things he talks about is all time is your time. So we're talking about like, that's not my time, or I don't have time, or I'm doing this on somebody else's time. Like he says in the book, all time is your time. And anytime I get frustrated with what's going on, it helps me come back to center and realize this is the thing that I am engaging with and to be present. And that really helps a lot.
I like that. Yeah. What is something that's on your bucket list?
I have a goal.
To do it quickly.
I'm doing it quickly. So my big goal that I have for this coming year is I want to go to Moab, Utah, and I want to go base jumping. And there's a canyon swing that I want to jump and do that as well.
That's cool.
I'm so excited.
I will not be doing any of that with him. My nervous system does not have the capacity for that, but I will be hiking a little over 8 miles to see 10 waterfalls at Silver Falls State Park here in Oregon, hopefully by the next month or so.
Wow. Very cool. I have goals to go to Moab eventually at some point, not base jumping. My nervous system and heights are always at friction, but that's amazing. That's really, really cool. I don't know if you've ever been to upstate New York or the Adirondacks in the fall to hike, but that's what we're coming into. And I'm so excited.
I love this season in your area. 100%.
Yeah. And last question is, what is the coolest shit you've done in the last year or are currently working on?
I'm going to be such a nerdy mom about this, but the coolest shit that we have done, I think, in the last year is watching both of our kids go from nervous and a little hesitant to fully performing at open mic nights for team open mic nights in our area, month after month.
It's fucking so amazing.
Showing up and getting more brave and showing off more of their skills and getting better at their craft. And it just blows me away because at 14 and 18, there's no way I would have done that. So that's the coolest shit I've done this year.
I think the coolest shit that I've done this year is just really invest my time and energy and attention in being really present. And I have never been more happy than I am right now in my entire life. Mm. And there is literally no external thing that has shaken that. Like we've gone through some weird shit. And every time I'm like, I would not pick a different fucking life to be living right now. And I've never been able to say that. Mm-hmm. And so I think just being really present and really engaged is by far the coolest thing I've ever done.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to call the times that I'm really present and aware the small perfect moments, and they're just so beautiful because they're not small. They're actually huge,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
This was amazing. Thank you both so much. I'm so glad we connected on Threads. It was just the universe works in magical ways. So this was a really powerful conversation. I appreciate you both so, so much.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, this has been a blast.
We'll definitely come back and talk about those spaces.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I hope that you took something away from this. You understand that not only is this really important, even if there's no urgency to it at the moment, it's something you can do. And taking one step towards that today for your business's freedom and reducing burnout. So until next time, remember that big dreams and small steps will transform your life.